Hi everyone, how is everybody doing today? So I am going to be completely honest with you. I have to get this video done and over with because I made this bun so tight for absolutely no reason. So I'm already feeling it right here on the top of my head. So let's get into it, shall we? Because your girl is going to have a migraine by the end of this video. So before we get started with today's story time, I do want to do my membership shout out. And today's membership shout out goes to Zeph W. I don't know your real name, so sorry. I did want to shout you out and say thank you so much for all the love and support that you give, not only on the membership, but also like I see you always commenting on my videos and just always giving me so much love. And I really appreciate you all. I really appreciate all the people that have signed up to the membership. I just got an influx in membership members. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for supporting me and supporting my channel and just being amazing, because I really do love y'all, like for real. So thank you so much, Zeph W. And now let's get into this story time, because I've been wanting to do this story time for a while, since I first started my channel, because this like happened when I was working in Miami. And part of the reason why I didn't want to do it was because in the back of my mind, I always felt like, oh, maybe I would go back to the salon that I worked at. And if y'all know, that salon did me dirty. I got laid off, fired, whatever you want to call it, during the pandemic in like the most unprofessional way possible. I have a whole video about that. And so I didn't want to make this story time because I was like, oh, maybe like, you know, I'll go back to it or whatever. And also I was still conflicted because I don't know, maybe I had like a version in my head of how the salon was, because I thoroughly enjoyed working there and I thoroughly enjoyed the people that I worked with. But now when I was thinking about this story, I was like, they were haters, bro. Like they were such haters. So this is like kind of a client story time, but kind of like a work story time, because I'm gonna show y'all. Okay, so boom. So basically, I was working in the salon here. At this time, I was still apprenticing, so I would take like little stuff, but now they were actually telling me to like take actual clients because they were really busy. So they told me that I was gonna have a color with this guy. He wanted his hair dyed and a haircut, and I was just like, okay, cool, like whatever. So when I finally met the guy, he was just very, you could tell like there was a language barrier, but you could also tell his personality was very like, I don't want to say like maybe shy, but he was just a quiet, cool, calm dude. And he knew a little bit of English too. So when I got him, I was like, hi, nice to meet you. What are we thinking about doing today? And he was very soft-spoken, and he was just telling me like, oh, I want this. And he shows me a picture of like the blonde on the top, and it's like a faded haircut. So I was just like, okay, cool. I was very excited. This is what I'm saying. They were haters. I was so excited because I like doing men's hair and I like doing like color on guys, because I just think it's fun, you know? And it's a lot more simple to do on girls' hair and a little bit easier, to be honest, but whatever. So I was so excited. I was so jolly, ready to, you know, do my own thing. I had experience with hair. I had extensive experience with like men's cuts and stuff. Like, you know, I was good to go. I was not insecure about it. I was very confident in my abilities. Now, I was just talking to him and I was like, okay, cool. So the salon, because I was still an apprentice, they wanted me to check in with another stylist, and we're gonna call her, I think I called her Katie in like my last videos about her. So we're just gonna talk to you about Katie. So as I mentioned in previous story times, Katie was very like about her business, very, you know, into being a great hairstylist, and it was very respected. I respected her as a hairstylist, but I do feel like sometimes she kind of got like, her ego was a little bit too boosted. I don't know, for me personally, because I get it, like you're really passionate about being a hairstylist and everything like that, but she just came off very a lot sometimes. So they wanted me to check in with her. So I was like, all right, cool. So this is what he wants to do. And so she was like, okay, what's your game plan? So I gave her my whole game plan. I was like, since he doesn't want it on his roots, I'm just going to foil all of his hair because he's a guy. So it's not like the same thing as foiling. I'm just foiling the top of the person's head. You know what I mean? It's not like a woman's hair thing. And she's like, why are you going to foil all his hair individually? And I was like, so we can get him to like the brightest platinum blonde that he wants, and it's gonna be a lot simpler or whatever. And so off the rip, she was just very like rude. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it was just like, why would you do that? And to me, I'm like, I feel like that's a very logical way to approach the situation, you know what I mean? Because he also told me that he has like a scalp, like he has a really flaky scalp and it's really sensitive. So I'm like, I feel like that is the best way to keep the color off his scalp, go for the look that he wants, and it would get him the brightest blonde. Like, I felt like that was pretty good. And so she was like, okay, I've never heard of that method. And mind you, she was not from America. And I don't know if anybody else has worked with people that are not from America. Other countries do not find us very intelligent. They don't think that we have the same standard. And like, I give it to her because, you know, here it's really easy to get your cosmetology license. Where she was from, it's like a 3 to 5 year course and you have to do a lot more. It does take a lot. So I get it. But at the same time, it is what it is. You know what I mean? I can't help that I didn't go through like an Ivy League cosmetology school with a 10-year course. Like, okay, but I still feel like I'm pretty solid on my thing. So she was just very like, just questioning me about everything that I was trying to do. So after that, she was like, okay, well, like, let's see how this goes. Like, well, I'll just trust that you know what you're doing. So I'm just like, okay. So I go to mix up the color. I give, you know, a good 20 volume, mix up with the powder. I come back, I set everything up. And the way I was taught to do color was towel, cape, towel. Pretty basic and trivial. Like, oh my God, if I had the cape over this man's face and I had towels over his feet, then fine, I guess you could say something. But as soon as I put the towel down, I put the cape, and then I put another towel, she comes over and she's just like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm just, you know, getting him prepared and everything. She's like, no, what is all this? You're just suffocating your client. You're just suffocating him. And so I like turned to him and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, are you uncomfortable? And he was like, no, I'm okay. So off the bat, I'm just like, girl, why are you being so annoying, to be honest? Because in the grand scheme of things, like, shouldn't you be busy doing something else instead of like micromanaging the way I'm putting the towel and the cape on this man? Like, can I just do my thing, please? Like, oh my God. And that's a reoccurring theme. I haven't even started on the story times about like my Miami experience at the salon, but that was just like a reoccurring theme where it's like, can you just let me do my thing? I get it, you do things differently, but like, can I just do it the way I do it? My God. So I was, you know, just like kind of brushed her off or whatever. And he was like, oh, is she like your boss or something? And I was just like, oh, I'm apprenticing. So she's just, you know, giving me extra pointers and things like that. And he was like, oh, okay. So he stayed pretty quiet, and I go ahead and I start doing the application. I'm just applying the bleach on his hair. It's nothing hard. It's literally nothing crazy. So I'm doing it like that or whatever. And so then I'm done and I go ahead and I get him a processing cap. So, okay, this is my logic here. You guys have clients that need the little, it was like this machine that they had that like it revolved around the client and it gave heat, right? So they have women clients, you know, big deal or whatever. So in my head, I'm like, okay, let me prioritize their clients, and he doesn't necessarily need all that extra stuff. So I'm just going to put a processing cap over his head. You thought I slapped him. Like, oh my God. So then I took the processing cap on him. And then here comes Katie. She was like, well, what is this? What are you doing? And I was like, oh, I just put a processing cap on him, you know, so that we can speed this up and make sure that it gets hot enough so it can get lighter. And she's like, no, take that off. Take that off. He looks ridiculous. Take that off because he doesn't need it. So I'm just like... And then once again, it's like this uncomfortable thing where it's like, even though I didn't agree with it and I'm the one doing his hair and he's technically my client, like I listened to her because, you know, I'm apprenticing under her. So, you know, she knows best. Okay. So I was just like, okay, I'm also getting embarrassed because I'm like, this fool is probably going to think that like, I don't know what I'm doing. So, and you could definitely read it on his face. Like it was just so embarrassing. So I take it off of him. And so I'm just letting him process, waiting. I come back after a certain amount of time with some more enlightener, more bleach, so that I could check him, see where his color is. And if it's not bright enough, I can just go ahead and add more. I mixed the bleach. And here comes Katie. She was like, oh, you're gonna reapply? And I'm like, yeah. And she was like, what is this color? What does the hair look like? And I was like, oh, I haven't checked it yet, but I'm going to like reapply it anyway once I look at it. And she was like, so you just mixed color before you even checked his hair? Okay, I'll give you that one. All right. I'll give you that one. Even though like I knew in my heart of hearts that I needed to reapply, I'll give you that one. All right, girl, like you got me. Fine. Cool. I checked his hair. Lo and behold, he needed more. Like he needed me to reapply. So I go in and I reapply it some more. So then he's just asking me, like he's very... I don't want to say he's antsy, but he's definitely worried about the time. He was like, oh, how much longer is this going to be? Like, how after this? Like, he wasn't rude about it or he wasn't, like, rushing me. But he definitely, like, I could get the vibe that he's definitely looking at the time. And so I'm like, oh, what are you thinking? Like, did you need to be out at a certain time or whatever? And he's like, oh, yeah, I do need to be out. I didn't think this was going to take that long, but, you know, just let me know how much time it's going to take. And so I was letting him know, I'm like, oh, it's just based off of your hair, however long your hair takes to process, da-da-da-da. So I know that he's kind of crunched on time and he's, you know, feeling a type of way because he didn't think it was going to take that long. And granted, his hair was taking a lot longer to process. I think it was because he didn't have the processing cap on, but neither here nor there. So I'm just like, oh, okay, don't worry. I put a higher volume developer on you. So maybe that's going to like speed up the process, but it's honestly just based off your hair. And then he says to me, it's fine if it's not as light as the picture because I do need to go. Like, I don't want to rush you, but it doesn't have to be as light as the photo. Me and him communicated that. He said that to me. He initiated that to me because I already knew that I could get his hair really light because it's already like a light brown. I was just waiting for it to get like to really, really white to get him that platinum fade look that he was looking for. But he's telling me like, hey, if you don't get me to that, that's cool. It doesn't have to be as light as the picture, but I just wanted to look good because, you know, I'm leaving, but I needed to be done in a certain amount of time. I hope all that is making sense because it is a factor. So, okay, fine. I reapplied him and now I'm just chilling and waiting. And so Katie was like, oh, how's it coming along? And I was like, oh, his hair is just taking a little bit like longer than I expected it to, but I reapplied with 30 volumes. So I'm just waiting to see. And she was like, well, I'm going to go check it out. And I was like, okay, cool. So she goes to check it and then she comes back and she was like, yeah, I would say like once you rinse it out, if that, we'll do a separate toner or whatever, and then just call me so I can tell you what to mix. So I was like, okay, cool. So fast forward about 20 more minutes. I kind of see the time. I kind of see he's getting a little anxious. He's looking at himself in the mirror, you know, giving very much body language, letting me know that he's getting, you know, antsy. So I go up to him and I was like, hey, I'm going to check your foils. And he was like, if the foils aren't ready, like we can just work with what we got. So I was like, okay, cool. So I look at the foils. It was like almost there. Like he needed another like 15-20 minutes. Like he did. It was like too yellow to take out. but not like orange. It was just like little bit there. So I'm just like, okay, like not a problem. I'm gonna go ahead and take these out, whatever. So because of what he told me before, and I guess this was my bad because I didn't communicate this to Katie, but we'll get to this. I go ahead and I take him to the shampoo bowl and I take out the foils and I start rinsing his hair. So as I'm rinsing his hair, I'm using a blue shampoo to get like all of that like yellow orangey tones. It was really yellow. So I was getting all those tones out, letting him sit, and so then I get Katie and I was like, I let him sitting with the purple shampoo, and I get Katie and I'm like, hey, I'm ready for the toner. So she comes over and she's like, why are you letting him sit with purple shampoo? Because that's what I do, girl. Because that is what I do with all my blonde clients who want like the most ashy, white, blonde, whatever. While I'm getting their toner, I just leave the purple shampoo just to get like the maximum amount out of the purple shampoo. Like purple shampoo serve a purpose. So I'm just trying to, you know, get the maximum amount while I'm also getting their toner. It's just what I do. It's what was like, I learned that by other people who are also really good hairstylists. I feel like Katie thought that she was like the only good hairstylist ever in the world, because her and the other guy that we used to work with used to go back and forth because they had like completely different ways of thinking. And it's just like if it wasn't the way she thought about it, it was just wrong. So I'm just like, because I'm just waiting for the toner, and she's like, take that off his head. Take that does absolutely nothing for him. Whether it did or it didn't, did it really matter? And did you have to say that like over him? Oh my God. So then boom, right? So she goes and gets the toner. She's explaining me to what toners. And you're going to put this on. You're going to leave it on for the full 7 minutes. If this doesn't work, then come get me and then we'll do another toner. Cool. So I take the shampoo out of his head, whatever. I shampoo him real good. I put the toner on and I let him know that it has to sit for a full 7 minutes. And he once again brought up the time and was like, oh, after the 7 minutes, like whatever the color is, like I'll just take it because, you know, I am running low on time and you still have to do the haircut. So I was just like, okay, that's not a problem. Like, let me just do the 7 minutes. Let me see how it turns out. Good to go. So because he said that, I was like, okay, I'm going to go get a mirror. So that way, as soon as like I wash it out, I'm going to show him what it looks like. And if he's okay with that, then we'll proceed with the haircut. If he's not okay with it, then I'll get Katie and I'll get the other toner. This is my logic, okay? I'm trying to be as like accommodating to my client, but as like logical as I can be. So I don't think anything of it. I feel like I am doing the best that I can personally for me. Oh my God. So exactly what I thought was gonna happen happened. The 7 minutes went by. He said like, oh, can I just see it? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna show you. I give him the mirror. I rough dried his hair with a towel, which is, it's guy hair, like it's short. It's not sopping wet. It doesn't take 10 years to dry. You know what I mean? So he checks it out and he was like, no, I'm okay with this color. So I was just like, okay, cool. So then I take him to the chair and I dry his hair with the blow dryer. I show him what the color is dry. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. Mind you, he's not doing the whole, like, you can pick up people's vibes, right? He was perfectly okay with the color. He wasn't giving like, oh, it's not what I wanted, or like, oh, like I worked with enough people to know, like, to pick up on stuff like that. He was very much content with the color. I asked him when we got to the bowl, like when I showed him, like, you know, whatever. And at any given moment, there was, you know, plenty of communication between me and him that I felt that he would be comfortable to be like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and do another toner or whatever. Cause I don't know how to call it, I guess customer service, but like my bedside manner when I'm working with clients, I try to make you feel as comfortable as you can. Like I always try to make it so that there's an open line of communication, that if you don't like something, or it's like, oh, I wanted like this to be darker, I wanted this to be lighter, I feel like I give people enough of that like comfort to be able to talk. And that's exactly what we had. We had a good rapport. I swear to you, we did. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I dried the hair. I showed him what it was going to look like. And I get started on his haircut. Now, I worked at a barbershop. Okay. I learned from, I hated everybody in that barbershop. They can all like go somewhere. But I will not deny that their talent was impeccable. These people that I worked with and that I like apprentice under it or whatever, and I learned from, they were the best of the best. I don't care what anybody says. You're not going to convince me otherwise. And the guy that worked at the salon, he did a different kind of fade. I'm not going to say that his haircuts were bad. They weren't to my liking. And I feel like anybody that I knew, if they got a haircut from him, wouldn't like it, personally. To each their own. You have your clientele. You do what you do. I have my clientele. I have the way I do things. Okay. So I cut this guy's hair the way he showed me in the photo. I gave him a crisp, clean fade. A fade, okay? That's what he wanted. That's what he got. It went in with his hair or whatever. That's what he wanted. I do his haircut. His hair is done. I did the highlights, everything. I did his haircut. I personally thought I did well, in all honesty, and I will stand by that because what I'm about to tell y'all is something crazy. So I thought I did well. So I go ahead and I walk him to the front. The guy that worked there, like, he was talking to him and he was asking him like, oh, how was everything, blah, 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 when we were checking out. He said everything was good. He liked it. Cool. I walk away and the guy's still talking and I can still hear my client saying like, no, I did a good job. He really likes it. And then they started talking about the marathon that he was going to race, whatever. So at the end of the day, I'm cleaning up my stuff. Everybody's leaving. Katie was like, Samantha, can I talk to you? And I'm like, sure, what's up? And she was like, are you happy with how that came out? And I was like, yeah, like, he really liked it. And even though it wasn't as bright as I wanted it to be because he was on a time restraint, like, I still think I liked it and he liked it too. And she was like, what do you mean a time restraint? And I was like, oh, he told me that, like, he kind of needed to be somewhere. So I just, we kind of had to sacrifice how bright he wanted it to go with the amount of time that he had. And she was like, that's not how that works. When a client comes to a salon, you are the professional and you need to set the tone and let them know that if they didn't have the time to come get their hair done at a salon, that's on them. Because you need to take your time and you need to make sure that your finished product is what it is that they asked for. Which I get it. I'm all about that. Yes, completely understand. However, if somebody's telling you, like, it's too late, you already started on it, they're telling you that they're okay with sacrificing a few things, like, why am I going to be like that person to be like, no, you knew exactly what you came here for. If you didn't have time to get your hair done, you should have never came to the salon. Like, what do you get out of being that way? And that was another thing. She would always do that to me. She would always, like, make it seem like that. But she would not be like that with her clients. Like, you want to act like you're this hardo. Like, you do all this stuff and you don't take anything. But you don't even act like that with your clients. So, shut up. You know what I mean? So, I was just like, I mean, I hear you. But if he's willing to sacrifice certain parts of the look and certain things, and he's the one with the time restraint, like, why would I honor that? What's the reason? And then here comes the other stylist. And was like, I'm glad we're talking about this because are you okay with that haircut? And I was like, yeah, I'm very okay with the haircut. I actually really liked the haircut. That was probably like my favorite part. And he was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, no, He said, did you see? That fade was too low. You did the fade way too low. And because his fades, like, he cuts everybody's hair the exact same way. It's all up here. It's like a high fade right here. And to be honest, there's always a line of demarcation. I don't care. Yeah, there's always a line of demarcation on your haircuts, sir. So I don't know why it is that you're coming at me as if I did something wrong. You didn't see a line in my fade. That's neither here nor there, is it? So he's just like, you did the fade way too low. It didn't look good at all. That didn't go with the haircut, or the haircut didn't go with the hair color. Like, why didn't you call me? I could have helped you. Because I did not need your help. And that was like the thing. It was so annoying because it's like, I get it that it doesn't look like your haircut. And I know, like, people gas your head up a lot because you're the only one that does haircuts in this salon. But, like, I'm not a fan of your work. I don't want to replicate your work. So, yeah, it's going to look different than what you do because we're two different people. We do different techniques. And to be honest, I feel like I'm better than you. You really want to go there, but neither here nor there, okay? So then they started just going in, and she was just like, oh, if you knew that I told you to come get me for the second toner, you knew, like, look at his hair, like, you knew that he needed another toner. And I'm just like, am I not speaking English to y'all? Like, I just told y'all he did not have time for another toner. He was under a time constraint, and I showed him his hair and he said it was good. And they're like, of course he's going to say that it's good. Of course he's going to say it, as if it's like an intimidation thing, or like, oh, the person wasn't going to say something. I'm just like, at this point, I'm eating it. Like, I'm just taking everything that they're saying. I'm trying to, like, explain myself, but they're not trying to hear it. So I'm just taking everything that they're saying, and I'm just like, okay, like, I'll be sure to apply that next time, like, whatever. Because at the same time, as much as I wanted to be in my right and defend myself, it was also like, okay, like, maybe they're seeing things that I didn't see. Maybe, you know, it's not for a lack of different techniques or maybe anything. Like, all right, cool. Like, I'm just going to take what y'all said. I'm going to take it on the chin and call it a day. Whatever. Didn't think anything of it. Like, at the end of the day, I was still proud of what I did. I don't think I have, like, I'm very honest with myself. If I messed up somebody's hair, I don't even want to talk about it. I'd be like, ooh, yeah, that was my bad. Like, if I really felt as if I did something wrong or I made him look crazy, when they were telling me all this stuff, I would have been like, yeah, y'all are right. Like, I wouldn't try to defend it, or I wouldn't try to excuse it or explain myself. You know what I mean? So I was just like, okay, whatever. Maybe they saw something I didn't. Is what it is. Can't take it back now. He already left. He paid. He left, you know. And he also left me a really good tip. So it's just like, if he was so disappointed, like, you know, whatever. Let's just say he was nice. Okay. So I didn't think anything of it. I went about my life, went about my day. So the next morning I get to work and the owner's there. And I was just setting everything up, getting everything together, and he was like, I want to talk to you. So I was just like, okay, cool. So I go to the back and he sits down and he was like, it's really disappointing to have this conversation with you. So I was just like stuck because I thought it had something to do with Matilda, because I was ready to go crazy. If it had anything to do with Matilda, I was ready to go off because I was sick of that lady at that point too. But I was like confused. So I was just like, oh, what happened? And he was like, I just don't like the fact that when somebody tells you to follow directions and do something, you don't do it. And I'm confused. I'm like, I did everything that I needed to do. I cleaned, I did this, I did that. And I was like, oh, was something dirty? Did I not check somebody out right? And he was like, no. Katie and the other stylist told me everything that happened with you and the client yesterday. What did they tell you? What did they have to say? Like, so I was just like, oh, what did they tell you? And then he was like, Katie told me everything about how you didn't even consult her on how you were going to apply the color, that you were doing something completely different, that you started, you know, wasting supplies and putting a cap on him when he didn't need a cap. And she told you to call her for the toner and you didn't do that. And he like didn't know hair. So he's just like saying stuff that kind of doesn't even make sense, and you're saying it on a one-sided way of it too. Like, you don't know the whole story, so you're just like coming at me, making it seem like I did all these bad things and I was just being completely unreasonable. So as I'm hearing this, I'm just like, what? And then he was telling me about how the other stylist said the same thing about the haircut, and I just got so mad because I'm like, wait a second, what are you like? And I'm trying to tell him, and he was like, no, it's not a matter of, you know, trying to explain yourself. What's done is done. I'm just letting you know that I really believe that you were ready to be on the floor, but now this whole situation makes me know that you're not ready. And I remember, like, that stayed in my head. He was just like, you're not ready. I thought you were ready. You're not ready. And I'm just like, y'all are so, like, really? You're gonna sit here and tell our owner? Like, why are you even doing that anyway? If this was supposed to be a learning experience, if this was supposed to be something different, like, why are you being so rude to me? Like, and I'm telling y'all, the only regret that I have is that I didn't take a picture of this man's hair. Cause I'm not joking, y'all. It's almost like they were punishing me because I didn't do it exactly how they would have done it, and it didn't look exactly how they do things. I'm not joking, y'all. Especially the haircut part really bothered me because there was nothing wrong with the haircut. You can say whatever you want about the color. We can go tit for tat about what I could have done, what I should have done, this, that, and the third. That's one thing. But what we're not gonna do is talk about the haircut, because that was like, just because the fade looked better than yours, in my opinion, doesn't mean that it's wrong. Like, y'all know there's different, like, especially here in the United States, there's like differences between like a Miami haircut, a haircut from Jersey, but like everybody does the haircuts different, but you can still tell like it's a good haircut. Why couldn't that same principle be applied to me? Like, I do more American style, more, I guess you would say urban, because it's more of like a crisp, clean fade rather than a more natural looking fade, sure. But don't sit here and make it seem like I just messed up this man's head. And y'all, I did not get a client ever since then. They did not trust me with no clients ever since then. And then the whole pandemic thing happened, and then I got fired and I never went back. But yeah. At the time though, like, I'm not joking, at the time I really felt like this was like constructive criticism, but like now that I think back on it, I'm like, yeah, there was like a little bit of constructive criticism sprinkled in there, but there was also a lot of shade for no reason. Yeah, because it was like a lot of that. There was a lot of difference of opinions just because I didn't go through the same things that they went through. They were much older than me, so it's always like, you're young, you're this, you're American, all this other stuff. And I'm just like, okay, well, can't take it back now. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time of the time they bullied me. Okay, they didn't bully me, but whatever, they did do something to me because I got in trouble and they didn't give me a client ever again. So whatever, just know, if you are apprenticing, if you are learning something, just take everything on the chin. It is what it is. When you get better at it, you can just slap everybody with your talent. Anyway, I hope you guys have an amazing rest of the day. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.